Am I the a-hole for exposing my friend's reason for a cash bar at her wedding? I, 40s female, have a friend, 40s female, who recently got married. I'm close enough to her to have been in her wedding. When we were planning her wedding with her, she kept mentioning how she was on a budget. Thankfully, she has connections and was able to put together an amazing dream wedding within her budget. With a guest list of about 200 people, they invited 300, but 200 RSVP'd yes. Her venue was a gift from her uncle who owns a wedding venue in New England. Her catering was gifted to her from a friend who owns an amazing restaurant. Her flowers were a gift from her aunt who is a florist. The rings were heavily discounted from a friend who works for a jewelry company and let her use their discount, so they paid cost. Her DJ and photographer were also gifts, as one of the members of the wedding party has a family event entertainment business. I guess what I'm trying to convey is that a lot of her wedding was gifted to her. Her largest expenses with the wedding were her dress and the rings. No shade, the wedding was amazing. She looked stunning and everyone had a fantastic time. At the wedding itself, there was a cash bar. The bride and groom aren't big drinkers, so I can totally get why they wouldn't want to fund anyone else's total buzz on their dime, especially when they were trying so hard to save for their honeymoon. After their wedding, they had saved enough to be able to honeymoon for a month in Italy. Roughly 2 months after their wedding, she and I got together for dinner. She showed me pictures from her honeymoon, and they were gorgeous. I told her again how happy I was for her, and we ordered. About halfway through dinner, she dropped a bomb on me, and I was absolutely stunned. Actually, I was pissed. She told me that a family member of hers owned a liquor store and gifted all the alcohol for her wedding to them. All she had to do was find someone to be the bartender. She asked one of the event bartenders at her uncle's venue if they wanted to make some extra cash. She offered them $20 an hour, plus tips, and then told all of her guests that the bar was cash. And they used the money towards their honeymoon fund. Her reception lasted roughly 4 hours. I went up to bar a few times, and because she set the prices as standard, I probably spent about $100 in 4 or 5 drinks plus tips. With 200 guests, some were drinking more, some were drinking less. If I use my amount and average it out, she made roughly $20,000 on her wedding. That doesn't include the gifts people gave her. I personally gave her a $200 check. I realize these numbers are speculation, but that's all I have to go on since she didn't give me an actual amount. She did say that the bar money covered a lot of the honeymoon. I was seeing red. I got up from the table and told her that since she made so much money off of me, she could cover my dinner. Then I texted the bridal party group chat and told them what she told me. The chat blew up, as I wasn't the only one that was miffed. This is where I think I might be the a-hole. I didn't have to tell everyone else what she said, and I didn't have to walk out of dinner. But a-hole or not, I know that I probably can't look past this and will continue this friendship. But I also don't know if I should try to mitigate the fallout with the rest of the friend group, because it wasn't my information to share. So please tell me, am I the a-hole? Edit. I went to sleep and woke up to way more comments than I can keep up with. I just wanted to thank everyone for their input. I'm going to answer the most common questions here. 1. How does she have so many connections? Both families are successful. If this had been her first wedding, her parents would have paid for the whole thing as a gift, although they would have also used the same connections to price it down. 2. What did she do as I left the restaurant? She followed me to the door trying to explain, but I was so upset that I just kept telling her that I didn't want to hear what she had to say. She couldn't leave with me because, like I said, I left her with a bill. 3. Was the family member who donated the liquor okay with her charging? I don't have the answer to this. Like I said, I didn't listen to her explanation, so maybe they were and maybe they weren't. Your guess is as good as mine. I need space from our friendship, but I don't know that it is completely over. Thank you again. Now for the comments. Not a-hole. This friend of yours is pretty much manipulating everybody at the wedding into paying for her honeymoon quite selfishly, when many of you already spent pretty big sums of money on gifts for the scum. Yeah, in addition to my gift and bar tab, I also paid $300 for my bridesmaid dress. I didn't include that in the post because I think it's pretty standard for bridesmaids to buy their own dresses, but I was still irritated. Dude, add in everything else that you paid for that wedding as well. I've spent close to $1,000 being a bridesmaid between all the different events, etc. If I was one of the friends, who was also a vendor, I would be seething right now. Not the a-hole. So many people contributed services and things for the wedding, but then she charged premium prices for a cash bar? Not cool on her part. Thank you. It is definitely a large part of what made it so sour in my mouth. We kept telling her to scale back on the wedding because of her budget, but I guess we didn't have all the information. Not the a-hole. From the sound of it, she had no budget and everything was handed to her, including her honeymoon. Everything was gifted to her except her dress and rings. That's not much of a wedding budget. Manipulating your guests into spending more money so you don't have to is low. She deserves your anger and dismissal. Not the a-hole. I'm of the opinion that if you didn't want me to tell people about your actions, you probably shouldn't have done it in the first place. Her embarrassment is her own fault, not yours. She actually doesn't seem embarrassed at all. I only thought I was an a-hole because of how the information I gave made our other friends feel. She's been responding in our group chat that we are all jealous because she had her dream wedding with her dream honeymoon and her dream husband. Like I said, I'm done with this friendship. I just felt bad for ruining it for everyone else. Although I guess what did I really ruin, right? Why would she be embarrassed? If she's willing to treat people like this, do you really think she'd care what they think or how they feel? She got what she wanted. She doesn't need any of you now. By the way, not a-hole in your part. Next story. Am I the a-hole for involving my frat bro's dad into the debt he owes me? For background, I, 23 male, currently live with my fraternity brothers in this college town. We live in a 3x3. Originally, one of our brothers, Carl, 27 male, was in charge of paying the rent every month. We would send him our share of the rent, and he would pay our landlord in full. Back in February, I was approved for the Built card, which prides itself in giving points and waiving fees for paying rent. I asked Carl if I could take over the rent from there on, and he agreed. That same day, he also asked me if I could speak with him and the other roommates that afternoon. Weird, but I said I can be there. I come to pay for March's rent, and the landlord makes a group chat with all of us and states, "Thank you for your payment of $1,150. Last month I had only received a payment of $150. There is a late fee of $50, so I would still be owed $1,050 for February. I will take that $1,050 from the payment recently made and apply the excess $100 for March's rent. For March, I would still need $1,050 for rent. Be sure this is paid before the 5th to avoid late fee." After receiving this message, I immediately called my roommate. I spoke with him on the phone and at home. I voiced my feelings of distrust and concern because I would have assumed he could come to us, his brothers. The household spoke with him as well. Reluctantly, I fronted the money, but I told Carl, "You owe me, and I'm not saying pay me back in full in a week, but please place some effort into repaying me." Currently, I am owed over $1,500 due to him being unable to pay his portion of rent. Carl does theater and has many practices as this is his major. But due to these practices, he has apparently cut hours while at work these past months. I was only made aware of this by one of our other roommates who works with Carl and was asked to cover multiple shifts. Carl also goes out with friends 1 to 2 times a month. I'm all for enjoying life and treating yourself, but it does feel wrong to me that he goes out when he can save money to pay off his debts or have his responsibilities in line. About once a week since this began, I've spoken with him about how it is going and how he's making money coming along, since I've only been paid $40 back for everything he owes me as of late. His plan is mostly revolved around trying to get loans or financial aid, but plans never seem to fall through. My final straw was when he went to Las Vegas in May. By that point, I was fed up. His father is a part of the fraternity as well, so I contact Carl's dad about the situation and my concerns that I will not be repaid the $2,000 I'm owed because his son does not make an effort to repay me, and I've tried to be nothing but respectful until this point. Currently, there is tension in the household, and Carl rarely comes to hang out with us if I'm involved. And if I appear in the living room, he will either do a chore or go to his room. I don't want this to happen, but I can only imagine owing your roommate $2,000. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. That is a lot of money at that age, and you went way above and beyond being patient with Carl. Not your fault he can't get his act together. If getting the dad involved gets you paid, I'm all for it. That's a lot of money at any age. Yeah, he does this to a non-brother in the real world. He's going to get hauled into small claims court and get his wages garnished. Info. Why are you the only one covering Carl's rent? Why aren't the other frat brothers helping? Sounds like you all need to discuss Carl's future as a roommate, since he can't keep up with the share. In terms of the roommates, everyone else is part-time and a full-time student. So they live paycheck to paycheck, but they're able to balance it out and budget. I'm the only full-time worker with a decent pay. I can make a savings account and be fine if I get fired or laid off. So they cannot really contribute, but I'm just happy they can sustain themselves and can budget. In terms of others in the frat, he owes about 3 other brothers money. Not as much as me, but he still owes them each like over $300. I was not made aware of this until after the fact. We have discussed our concerns with Carl. Because our lease is up by the end of July, we've told him how we're concerned that 1. These debts wouldn't be paid and it's truly unjust. 2. That this is a habit we cannot break. At least here in this town, we care about him and will give it to him straight. He plans to move to New York City after graduation in December, and I have told him that I'm concerned if this keeps going, he'll face worse consequences. Not a-hole, but you guys are going real soft on him. In my fraternity, you got 1 strike when it came to debts. Strike 2 was a come to Jesus talk. Strike 3 was a character assassination until compliance was achieved. My brother said in the army, strike 3 was they'd beat the heck out of said person and called it a training accident. Last story. Am I the a-hole for agreeing to babysit my friend's kids on my day off? My boyfriend, male 36, and I, female 29, have been together for a year. We moved together last month. We don't have kids, and we are not planning on having them. Both of us work 5 days a week, but my days off are always Thursday and Friday, while his days off varies from week to week, so our days don't always match. And it's possible that they don't match for weeks or even couple of months if we are unlucky enough. So last week, my boyfriend's days off were Friday and Saturday, and mine as usual were Thursday and Friday, which meant both of us were free on Friday, and we were pretty excited to enjoy our day off together. It was our first day off together since we moved together. We didn't have anything planned, but I was looking forward to laze around with him the entire day. Friday at 2 a.m., I received a call from my best friend, female 29. She was crying because her husband, a truck driver, was in a traffic accident. The accident was in a city 8 hours away, and he was taken to the nearest hospital in a really bad shape. My friend said she and her mother-in-law wanted to leave to the hospital right now, so they could be there by mid-morning. My best friend has a 10-month-old son, and she said she obviously can't get a hold of her usual babysitter at 2 a.m., so she asked me if I can watch her son for a few hours until she can reach her babysitter. Now, I'm also not a huge fan of kids, especially babies. I don't know how to deal with them. But this is an emergency, and I understand it's probably impossible to get a babysitter at 2 a.m. My friend had never asked me to babysit before, as she knows I'm not good with the kids. But this is an emergency, and what are friends for, right? So I said yes, and I told her she could drop the baby at my place. As soon as I disconnected the call, my boyfriend told me he couldn't believe I agreed to babysit, and that he didn't want a screaming baby in our house, that it would ruin his day. I agreed he shouldn't be forced to interact with a kid against his will. After all, I was the one who agreed to babysit. So I called my friend and told her I will babysit at her place instead. My boyfriend got angry at me again, but I left anyway and went to my friend's place. My friend called the babysitter at 8 a.m., but she said she wasn't available until noon. So I ended up babysitting from 2 a.m. until noon. When I returned to my place, my boyfriend was still angry at me. He said I ruined our day off together, as I was missing half the day to go babysit a kid that's not even mine. I tried to explain that I was just trying to help my friend. He has been ignoring me since Friday. He said it was clear to me my best friend is more important than him, as I picked helping her over spending the day with him. I told him it was not a matter of who is more important, but he is still upset. I understand I missed half a day off with him, and that we might not get another for a few weeks, but I think it was a special circumstance. My best friend needed my help. Am I the a-hole? Edit for info. Yes, I did told him that my bestie's husband was in an accident. We didn't have anything planned except for sleeping in and laze around the entire day. My bestie's husband was in ICU until Monday morning. He was moved to another ward and is expected to make a full recovery. My friend and her mother-in-law are still by his side. I didn't need to babysit the baby again after I gave him to the babysitter Friday noon, as the baby's other grandma, my best friend's mom, flew to our city the next day to pick up her grandkid, and the baby is staying with her during this situation. Not the a-hole. Might want to reconsider that relationship if this is how he reacts when you help someone in an emergency. Not the a-hole. Exactly. If your partner is going to act like that and give you hell in such a traumatic situation that has to do with someone very important to you, like your best friend, maybe you're better off without him. Red flag. Even if you're only friends with someone like him, would make sense to reconsider. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, but this is bringing up a ton of red flags. He is acting incredibly immature. You helped a friend in need, and it kept your part of your promise to not force the baby on him. You went to her apartment and took the baby there. It's not like the parents were going out to party or date. There was an emergency, and no one else was able to care for the child in the meantime. I implore you rethink this relationship. Because if this is how he acts when he doesn't get his way over something as small as not seeing you for a few hours, I'd rather not stick around when he doesn't get his way for bigger things. Run. Yep, not seeing a shred of empathy from him. Seems to only care about his needs. Not the a-hole. You could have been together on Friday if he was mature enough to understand the circumstances of your decision. In that case, you would be at your home and will have a helping hand. I understand a screaming baby could put off some people, but he can just switch rooms. And considering that it was his day off, he shouldn't be angry about seeing a baby. I don't see a problem here being you. Helping someone for a few hours in their time of trouble is what a friend does, and a partner is responsible for his other half to take care of you. Consider this a red flag. There could be a past trauma or something affecting his decision-making. I think if you end up marrying him, he can just leave you when you are sick or in trouble, as he doesn't like your friends visiting you at a hospital or something. Sorry to say this, but I would advise you to clear things up before moving ahead with your relationship.